Surely.
Then I want to move away from maybe the 13th to another pressing issue back home, at least,
Sure.
which is the 280,000 plus people who I say are interned, but certainly, unarguably, they are in IDP camps. Of course, the conditions of these camps are debatable, but the future is not. Now, you, quite frankly, quite surprisingly for me, at the time that you actually came out with this submission on Ground Views, but also on other media as well, came out very strongly against, for the need to look into this issue sincerely and get these people out as the basis of reconciliation or the start of a parallel political process. Disturbingly, man, this is not happening. Now, we hear excuses, and certainly there might be legitimate reasons in the foreign minister saying that there are still 8,000 LTTE cadre left in these camps who need to be screened out. There seems to be a military mindset dominating over basic human dignity and the need to get these people out. How serious a question is this? The longer that we endure this, is it the case that the fabric of our reconciliation and our political process is even more endangered?
Well, there is a legitimate security consideration. But I think that the security consideration can be balanced off with the human rights and humanitarian or basic.
But it's not even human rights, is it? I mean, it's still
human consideration.
It's human.
Yeah.
It's
look, it can be done.
Yeah. How?
And this is the way I think it can be done. In the first place, precisely because there are trained LTTE cadre in there, I think we should take a leaf from any standard work on counterinsurgency and understand that it's not a good thing to keep these activists within a large population of about 250,000 people. This just gives them a nutrient medium. So I'm not saying send these guys home. I wouldn't. But you have to separate out the suspected LTTE.
But how different is that to the government saying that it is doing it and that is why it is taking so much of time?
Well, I think that firstly there has to be basic classification, and basic classification would mean that we have cutoffs. That as some of my friends here, ambassadors from countries that have dealt with this sort of thing in Southeast Asia, have told me, look, surely anybody over say 50 and under 12 is neither an ex-combatant or potential combatant. So once you bracket out those on the basis of age,
sorry, but
you need a differentiated policy.
Over what did you say?
Over 50.
Well,
45.
that's very strange that you say that, because Paritha Kohona, in an interview published last week in Himal South Asian, said that a 74-year-old man who they had released subsequently went to Singapore, and they discovered that he was, of course, Paritha doesn't know too much of information technology, but suggested that this man was in charge of the LTTE computer and the database. Now, I'm not entirely sure what he means by that, but it would then undermine your case, right? Because there seems to be this grandpa who was the brains behind the LTTE's IT operation. Now,
I don't know about that particular episode, but in general, I mean, unless you're going to adopt a policy of keeping everybody in, even over 70 until you process them, the best practices internationally, and I'm talking about countries that have had to handle larger numbers, that have had to handle say, the South Vietnamese puppet army guys in there and so on. What they do is that they have a rough age classification. And then they limit those people, they incarcerate those people and then let the others go. Now, there is a problem about demining. There is a real problem. Muthukrishna Sararandan has argued that not everybody comes from areas which have landmines, and the ones who come from areas that are not mined should be sent back. There seems to be a point there. Our Chinese friends have a huge demining academy in Nanjing. I think it would be possible to send large numbers of Sri Lankan troops for training and bring them back.
Yeah.
But
you didn't. My fundamental question. My fundamental question remains. I mean, you are talking about things that can be done.
Yeah.
My understanding is that although it's not all the hell that it is painted to be in some media, certainly say the Times of UK, which is atrocious in its journalism, it is still bad. I mean, these are not conditions that you and I would find comfortable living
Well,
in.
I think I said that on ground views long before, I mean, sometime before I was sacked.
Absolutely. But
when I wrote it and I said the moral test is if these were our aunts, uncles, grandmothers and kid cousins, would we be as satisfied as we are about the progress made, or would we be doing more?
Yeah.
Now, I think there's a structural flaw in the way this has been handled. And what is that flaw? The IDPs are being looked after by an 18-person task force.
All Sinhala.
When the task force was set up, it was entirely Sinhala. I don't think this was intentional, but there was a lack of sensitivity.
But that's the point, isn't it? That even
the blind spot.
The blind spot. I mean, it's like side swipes you.
And then 2 Tamils were inducted.
Yeah.
But what I can't understand is when you have the Tamil cabinet minister, who's a senior minister in your cabinet, why isn't he the co-chair of the 18-person task force? I'm not even saying he should be the chairperson. Because if you reverse the situation and you hypothesize a situation of 250,000 Sinhalese rounded up, let us say, after the JVP insurrection was put down, which they weren't, but let us assume that they were, and they were in charge of an 18-person task force that was entirely Tamil, I think there would have been a huge uproar. So if we have a Tamil co-chair, I think he or she would be far more sensitive, because they speak literally the language, to the specific needs of the people in those IDP camps. And that would help process them out much faster. That would help streamline things, because there would be a greater comprehension, greater communication, greater sensitivity. It's as simple as that. I'm not saying that these people are being intentionally kept in such large numbers, but the world will judge us. We've said 180 days.
No, you said this very clearly in your
for the bulk to be processed out.
Yeah.
We are saying it's more a target than a pledge, which is fine. It's a target, but we will be judged in 180 days as to what percentage of the target we have actually succeeded.
Dan, I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but I mean, at the end of the day, there is, even from the comments coming in, just last week alone, you had the foreign minister in Phuket suggesting that it might not even be 80%, it might be 60%. In the same week, you had Parita Kohona in Himal South Asian suggesting, in the same answer, literally in the space of 4 sentences, first saying that all of them will be returned, and in the final sentences, 4 sentences after, saying that he's not entirely sure how many will be done, returned. So, I mean, where is the coherence in government in this? Can we search?
They're probably correct. When they say that they're not sure about the percentage that will actually.
But they're not even sure amongst themselves. Do they know anything?
Well, I'm sure they do, but I'm not privy to what they know. What I do know is that there is a 180-day timetable.
Absolutely.
There's a target for the bulk.
I'm going to stick my neck out here
and to be resettled.
I'm going to stick out my neck out here.
And people are watching because
absolutely.
Yeah. The sad thing is that the anti-Sri Lanka propaganda is depicting this 250,000 people behind the wire as the way the Tamils are treated in Sri Lanka, which is not true.
Man, but
this is being. But we
surely,
are, I mean, our target profile. Our profile is, we are just allowing ourselves.
This isn't even diplomacy. This is PR. We are losing the PR here, man. We are losing it big time. Why doesn't this occur?
Well, I wouldn't
to
call
the government.
I mean, I wouldn't.
This is public relations.
Reduce it to public
relations. No, but
I think it's a far more important.
Absolutely, but in terms of image,
it's to do with credibility of commitments that we have made, be it in terms of targets rather than pledges. That's fine. It is to do with the battle for world opinion. It is to do with occupying and being seen to occupy the moral and ethical high ground, and that high ground is something that we mustn't lose. That's strategic territory.